Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thank you guys for joining me live on this Friday evening. We are here on December 12, 2025 and doing tarot readings on the channel. If you guys can see me, give me a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe. Drop me a comment in the chat. Let me know if you're watching for the first time and where you're tuning in from. We're going to be doing readings by donation this evening, so if you guys want to get a reading, just scan the QR code right up here, and if you scan that code, it's going to take you to my PayPal. We are doing a one-card question for $20 donation, and you guys can get a 3-card that we are doing. I believe it's for $40. I'm having like a bit of like a brain moment, but anyway, you guys can see that down below. Just scan the QR and it'll take you to my PayPal. Please put any information pertaining to your question in the memo box, and also if your name is different than your YouTube name, just let me know so I know who you are. We'll be taking the readings in the order that we receive them in. And if you happen to be a member on my channel, if you're level 4 membership, you guys can cash in and get your monthly reading. You get to pick one Friday with me once a month. And this is the second week of the month that we're doing readings. So if there's level 4 people out there who want tarot, I'm happy to answer your question. You guys get a 3-card spread, or I can see you next week for astrology. Just a little bit about some just notes on the channel. So we're seeing lots of growth. We're getting closer to 50,000 subscribers. So thank you guys. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And sharing is caring. You guys can share these out. And if you're seeing me on Saturday or on Sunday, I'm no longer live. I'm only here at 6 o'clock p.m. Central on Fridays. That's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And if I missed you, I'm sorry. I hope I see you guys next week. And we're still going to have another tarot and astrology before the month is up. And if you guys would like to learn tarot, check out my website below in the description. Head over to beyondtheveiltarot.com. I do have a tarot course. And all of my tarot decks actually sold out. So I was really stoked to see that. We were able to sell them in like 2 weeks. If you grabbed one, I hope you guys love it. We only put out 100 of them on Etsy, but this is the deck that I'm going to be using this evening. It's called the Sword and the Rose Tarot. This is the tarot deck that I designed over this last year. I hope you guys enjoy it, and let me know if you guys have any questions in the chat. But we're taking readings in the order that we receive them in. So I have got Kimberly, who's first, and it looks like she was asking about questions. And then also I've got Matt, Amanda. You guys are all in the queue. Are there any level 4 people here? Happy Friday. What's going on? David's here. We've got people who I've not seen before. So what's up, Riley? What's up, AW4397? Watching from North Carolina. What's going on? DTBET76. Hey, is our emergency request for order going to get granted? So we're doing all readings by donation. So if you guys want to get a reading, you have to scan the QR code. And then once we get your guys' donations, we do the reading. So we're going to start first with Kimberly. Kimberly, are you here? There she is. General forecast for next year. All right, let's do it. And then obviously I saw that we have Mr. Powers here. So Matt and Amanda, you guys will be next. And if you guys want to get in the queue, just sign up. All right, so let's see what we can tell Kimberly about a forecast for 2026. Let's do something fun. So we do 3 cards. So we'll do what the lesson was in 2025, what energies you're going to be experiencing in 2026, and what the outcome of this next year is. So what you're leaving behind, what you're focusing on, and what 2026 looks like in a nutshell. All right, so this is what we're leaving behind. This is what is coming in the new year. And this is the overall kind of year ahead. So really great cards. I'm already kind of peeking at them. I get the Queen of Wands, the 2 of Swords, and the 2 of Cups. So off the bat, something that's interesting is like it's kind of coming up, kind of what you're moving out of in 2025 is that this has been a year where you've been taking risks. The Queen of Wands can represent you if you're a fire sign. So if you're an Aries, if you're a Sag, if you're a Leo. But it can also mean that this year you really leveled up when it comes to adventure, when it comes to creativity, when it comes to getting out of your comfort zone. And it's been a year where you've been putting your passion and your creativity and your own independence right front and center. So you've been really nurturing some of these things. Some of these kind of characteristics and qualities have really kind of come through. Usually when we're dealing with a queen, it does represent more kind of feminine energy, where it can be more internal, not necessarily external. And maybe this means that you've been doing a lot of like work on yourself. Okay, so there has been a sense of you going, I'm going to participate in things that bring me joy. I'm going to be participating in things that are going to be maybe pushing the limits a little bit creatively, or maybe going to places that you've never been before and taking risks. And it looks like it's paid off. And there can be this sense as you're going into 2026 with the Two of Swords coming up, where you're like, is there going to be a breakthrough? Am I going to be able to have my cake and eat it too? Because there is this mental side of the Two of Swords where sometimes you kind of wonder whether or not you're making the right moves or you're making the right decisions. It can also mean that you feel like you're contemplating the direction that you're going with something else. So kind of like weighing of the options is what I see when I come up with Two of Swords, Two of Coins. But the Two of Swords means that you can also be approaching this new year being like, what is it that I don't see? What blockage am I dealing with? What am I afraid to expand on? What am I afraid to kind of talk about? And also feeling like maybe you're at a crossroads, like there's a fork in the road, and you're wondering whether or not you're going to go left or you're going to go right. And it looks like there can be something that's kind of coming up relating to relationships or partnerships. And the reason why I say that is because we've got another two. So twos always do with pairs. So if you have kind of come into 2026 going, all right, I've been doing a lot of work on myself. I've really been kind of pushing myself to get out there and really do things that are going to be more free-spirited and kind of independent in nature. Am I going to meet somebody, or am I going to attract energies and people who are going to be receptive of that? So that could be a partner that's a match. That could mean, are you going to be finding your tribe in your friend group? It could mean, are you going to be bringing in more clients? Are people going to be seeing that, you know, you're standing out in some way? And I would say do not overthink it, because with the Two of Swords, we can overthink things. And sometimes if we get kind of trapped in that mental kind of rat race of going round and round and round and not making a decision or questioning something, we can miss really important windows of opportunity. This can also be a year where you're learning to silence the mind and listen to the intuition, which obviously is easier said than done. But I do think with that Two of Swords coming up, it is kind of telling me that there are some things you've been thinking about doing, some chances or some risks that you've been thinking about taking. And I think it's going to be positive because it looks like other people are going to be receptive of that. So sometimes with the Queen of Wands coming up with the Two of Cups, it could mean you're seeking clients, or you're seeking people who are interested in your services or things that you have to teach or stuff that you want to be selling. And the Two of Cups is a relationship card. So if it's not necessarily about drawing an audience and bringing people in who are interested in what you have to sell, this could mean that you're actually bringing in new relationship energies into your life. Now, if you're single, it could mean this could be a year where you meet somebody very significant. Obviously in this card with the Two of Cups, they're kind of choosing each other, and you see like a bride and a groom, and it represents that divine union and that partnership, and it can represent like a soul connection. So doors are going to be opening in regards to people being more receptive of you, whether that's being in a relationship, working with you, or wanting to collaborate in some capacity. To me, it just looks like it's about continuing that momentum of what you have kind of kicked off in recent months, and not like slowing down or questioning the direction that you're going in, and being very open to connecting and collaborating and welcoming relationship energy into your life. If you're in an existing relationship, it can mean maybe there has been a sense of you having some breakthroughs and some realizations about yourself, and really realizing that maybe you're happier when you're doing things on your own, or you're feeling like, you know, you need a little bit of freedom, or you're wanting to kind of get out there and do some things and kind of find yourself again. And there can be the sense of you kind of questioning going into this year, is this the right move for me? You know, is this going to work out? Can I still have this sense of fun and freedom and do what I want to do and focus on my creativity, my hobbies, my career, and simultaneously juggle a relationship? Am I going to have to make a sacrifice? You know, is one going to kind of overtake the other? And I would say no. What you want to focus on is continuing that frame of mind, not feeling like you have to make sacrifices for other people, because it does look like it has made you happier. It does look like it is going to be better for you in terms of your overall vitality and energy. And you want to be choosing partnerships or relationships that are supporting the person that you're becoming. You want somebody who's not going to be threatened by, you know, some of this independence. They're going to be kind of cheering you along on the sidelines. So it does look like there's going to be better relational dynamics that are going to happen. And if there's anything that you need to kind of talk about or express or get out in the open, do so, because it looks like that holding onto it, not discussing it, or, you know, addressing some of your concerns will actually create a situation that's going to be harder for you to go deeper into commitment or relationship with another person, or to feel a deeper sense of connectedness or intimacy with them. And you might surprise yourself that if you're talking about these insecurities or these fears, you will actually be met with somebody who's going to go, no, I support this, or I want to do this with you, or I want to encourage you to keep going. So keep up the good work in terms of kind of really finding yourself. Don't overthink things, listen to your gut, and keep your eyes open for relational dynamics that can happen really within the first 2 months of 2026. Hopefully that is helpful for you. All right, so let's take a look and see who else do we have on here. So we have got Mr. Powers. I saw your little comment up here, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to read it really quick. All right, so Mr. Powers says, update on getting moved to 2nd grade. My observation went well and things are going well overall. Great, but these kids have never had a consistent teacher before and their behaviors are pretty difficult. Way better than what I was doing, but still not really what I want when I switch to public school. I feel like I'm redirecting behavior more than I'm teaching, and I still have to teach low-income public school for the next 4 years, and I know teaching anywhere is challenging, but I wanted a school with better behavior than this. I'm wondering if I've messed up my life and I've gotten into the wrong career, or maybe the Mars square Saturn is really just getting me and the students. Have I messed up my whole life or picked the wrong career? Thanks. All right, well, let's take a look. Matt, you also have to understand that part of the Pluto transit for you is literally about going through some kind of personal transformation, which can feel like a crisis when it comes to dealing with the psychological behavior and other people's children, right? Pluto on your sun in the 11th house, and having a bit of like an identity crisis, like, oh my God, is this what I'm supposed to be doing with my life? Is this my purpose? Saturn and Neptune can bring that up a lot as well. And especially going into the new year, like really pushing yourself February, March, and April to really show up in your career in a new way. And it is about being like more authoritative, like in a good way. It's kind of like peaceful power, Saturn, Neptune, and Aries. And you'll see eclipses in your 6th house in this next year. You'll see a Mars retrograde in your 6th house also at the very beginning of 2027. So there's definitely a lot of transits in your chart that can indicate that if you did want to segue, it would be possible if you wanted to do that. But let's ask the tarot specifically, does the tarot think that he has quote unquote messed up his life, or maybe gone in the wrong direction, either with teaching or kind of teaching in this particular location? Okay, what's up, Rosie? The Mars Saturn stuff is so nasty. It's been so rough. All right, so let's see what we can tell Matt about this teaching career. So we have got the Lovers card, we have got the Tower card, and we have got the 5 of Wands. So it's funny because the tarot, I mean, it's always, I tell people, like, can it predict the future? Yeah, but it's really just kind of predicting the current trajectory that you're on based off of what's already been happening. So we've got 2 majors, we've got the Lovers and the Tower, and the 5 of Wands. And the truth is that the Lovers card can be similar to like the Garden of Eden. There is something that's tempting, right? Like, oh, come and, you know, like teach little kids, they're super sweet and it's going to be, you know, super fun and easy. Or, oh, come and work for this school, you know, where you have an amazing staff or faculty, and like things can look really good and tempting from the outside. Ironically, the Lovers card also represents ideas and choices and feeling like, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? And sometimes this can be a card that's about the grass being greener, right? Or appearing greener. And from my perspective, from what I've seen, kind of talking to you about where you're coming from and having worked in, you know, other kind of educational spaces, this looked much better than where you've been. So I don't necessarily think you've blown up your whole life by choosing like the quote unquote wrong career. I don't think I've seen a single Aries rising who's been questioning their career with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's been looming, especially if you are in the early degrees, because it's going to represent, if you don't like something, then you are going to actually initiate some kind of a change, particularly in the spring of next year. So I think school goes until like what, May? I also think that this can represent considering other options, and Gemini does deal with education, so it can mean that there is a possibility that you're considering a second, you know, space or place, but for right now, I think you're going to stay put. The Tower card is like the oh shit moment. So this is coming up for right now, where you're kind of going like, oh my God, did I blow everything up? And like the cards are reflecting what it is that you believe that you've done. it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case. But the Tower card can sometimes be this like moment where there's this realization that whatever foundation you have, it may be crumbling. So if your perspective is, well, I thought I wanted to be a teacher, I went to school, you know, I got my certification so I could teach, I've been in education for several years, and now I'm just kind of asking myself like, oh my God, like, am I cut out for this? Like, is this for me? And I would say it's more about the realization that you're having, that it may be you realizing that you may not have the foundational support in the current position that you're in. And like, you know, I'm not gonna knock, you know, teaching in general. I think it's probably one of the most difficult occupations, I would assume, that's out there, you know, teaching children, especially this day and age where like all the kids are, you know, we have a lot of soft parenting, and we also have like a lot of kids that just like their eyes are always on a screen. So it can be really hard to get students engaged, and it can be really hard to kind of get them to pay attention. But I think this is a turning point for you where you're maybe realizing like, wow, it may be more revolving around the actual institutions that I'm teaching in. If I don't feel like I have that foundation of, you know, the school in general being super hands-on, and the philosophy revolving around respect and teachers, and you've also got a lot more children, I mean, in modern day age in classrooms than we've had previously. And, you know, the teacher to student ratio is just insane for a lot of public school, that it's almost impossible to really kind of get that one-on-one. And so I think it's revolving more around, do I want to teach in a public way, not necessarily completely pulling out of like teaching in general. The Five of Wands comes up, which does talk about like feeling that this has been a bit of like an uphill battle, and that it's not even so much on a one-on-one level that you're having with students. Five of Wands, you see these little boys and they're running around and they're all kind of like, you know, play fighting, like they're like sword fighting with wands. And it can represent like one student triggering something, and then you've got a bunch of kids that are talking, and then they're all just kind of like fooling around and playing, and it's almost like you feel like you're outnumbered. And it can feel very challenging and overwhelming to keep the balance between, okay, I have to be, you know, the authority, but also like I don't want to come across as like this mean teacher, and I don't want, you know, the faculty to be thinking that I'm not able to kind of command the classroom. So rather than freaking out, I would say stay where you are. I would make a change. I think that if you have consistent employment, just with your astrology right now, I would make a move. I do think what's going to be interesting is there's going to be eclipses that are coming up in Aquarius pretty soon. So that's definitely going to change things for a lot of Aquarians, especially your sun sign. But it is going to be about your relationship that you have with students, okay? It's about a classroom. It's going to be in your 11th house, and it'll square Uranus, which means that you're changing the game in how you relate to other people. And instead of there being chaos, which it seems like there is a little bit of, they can actually manifest as incentive, and like what you're doing to incentivize the students to, you know, get them to want to pay attention, to get good grades, to be respectful, to, you know, do what you're asking them to do. And I would say, especially when you have squares to the second house, you might change the way that you're incentivizing them, right? Like I just think back to like when I was a kid, like in the 90s, like you would see teachers that would be like, if you guys all get A's on your test, we're gonna have a pizza party, right? Or they would be like, at the end of the semester, you know, we're gonna end up having like a movie day, or there's gonna be like little point systems, and then you get little gifts. It sounds silly, but I almost feel like that would be really beneficial for some of the squares that you're gonna be having with these eclipses. And rather than feeling like you have to wrangle them, I think that there can be a way to incentivize the students to all work together, that, you know, if everybody is going to be rewarded, then everybody has to actually follow the rules, participate, pay attention, and they have to be successful when it comes to their studies. Otherwise, if certain individuals are falling off and they're kind of creating a bit of a ruckus, nobody is actually going to be able to, you know, enjoy some of the benefits of some of the bonuses that they may potentially get. So I don't know if you have to incentivize them with like little treats, or, you know, if you're going to do something that's going to be fun, or it's going to be something that's going to be more hands-on, and also encouraging them to focus more on not just being independent, but like relational dynamics. So I don't know what you teach, but like, for example, let's say you say to everybody, instead of it being, you know, a one-off, one-person exam, there's actually going to be a project, and you guys are going to be graded on how you guys are going to work together, rather than putting the pressure on one person or one student, where if you're doing that and one gets distracted and they act out, at least you're putting them in a group dynamic, which might be a little bit easier to manage, and incentivizing them to obviously be successful and work as a team. So I have a feeling what may potentially happen, because, you know, Neptune rules your 12th house, you may find that there's going to be an interest that you're maybe looking at private schools, or you're looking at magnet schools, or you're going to be looking at schools that are going to be, specific to art or specific to science, or things that are going to be more a specific curriculum that is going to be a little bit more refined than what you're kind of dealing with now. And it might be something that you feel good about doing. Aries rising has a really great horoscope for the beginning of, January of 2026. You're going to have a ton of planets going through your 10th house, where there's going to be an opportunity to work together and work with what I believe could be superiors and get a little bit more recognition for a job well done. So don't throw in the towel, don't give up. Know that, December into January can actually be pretty positive, and allow you to go into a direction where you can really shine and you can lead. And if you're going to make any dramatic changes with your career, you would want to watch that happening most likely around the time of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So it could be February. And I think that the Five of Wands is saying that it's not that you're in the wrong career. It's more that it might be about finding a better suit for the kind of kids that you want to work with. And a lot of it deals with this, like I said, the structure and the foundation of the actual school that you're working for. So if there isn't a sense of really reprimanding the kids, or if there isn't going to be, at least on like a faculty level or on an administrative level, if they're not doing anything to kind of intervene, or if there isn't, repercussions put in place, for kids who are misbehaving, then you're going to feel like you're beating a head against a wall because you're not really getting, the results that you want. But like I said, I think you're going to get a little bit further with honey than you are with vinegar, and look for potential considering changes in your career goals could come sometime between February and April. And even if you stay, it looks like there will be an opportunity for you to consider segueing, especially over this summer. And then at the beginning of 2027, when Mars goes retrograde in your 6th house, that'll give you another opportunity to make a change as well. But the fact that the Gemini or like the Lovers card came up makes me feel like you chose a career that is good because you actually really wanted to work with youth, and you really wanted to make a difference, and you wanted to do it, but maybe from the outside you thought it was going to be very different than when you actually got in it. I also wonder if you may go in the direction of doing something that's either like more private, or it's going to be like potential like groups of like kids that may be in, like I said, magnet schools, or kind of private school settings, or even homeschool like pods. I think they call them pods. I know that sounds bizarre, but with like Pluto going through your 11th house, and with eclipses in the North Node going through there, it's pulling you more into a group dynamic and being in something that's more unusual, futuristic, kind of modern. So that might be something that you want to consider looking at if you're not really a fan of what's going on with kind of teaching with, obviously public school curriculum. So hopefully that's helpful in giving you some insight on that, but I don't think you blew your life up. I think your transits are really kind of just doing what they're supposed to do. All right, so we've got Amanda that's here. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember where the moon was today until you said that. Oh, the moon's in Libra. Okay, well it was in Virgo, so the last 2 days things have been kind of gnarly, but yeah, Rosie, it's been real. All right, so we have got Amanda that's in the queue. We have also got Brianna and Amber. So if you hear your name, you're in the queue. So we're gonna take Amanda next, and then after that it'll be Brianna. And if you guys wanna get a reading, scan the QR code and you can get in line for a reading. Just don't forget to put your info in the memo box for me. All right, so let's see what Amanda has to say. I'm a 29-degree Virgo rising Cap Sun. The last year has been hard for my relationship. I caught him cheating, and I haven't spoken to him by phone in 2 months, but he was texting trying to get back in my good graces. He, a Sag rising and Cancer sun, stopped reaching out. What can you tell me about him and us? All right, well, let's take a look. Sounds like it's a combination of, it's like the Sag rising going through the Mercury retrograde, like realizing like, oh, my partner's not responding well to me. And that Mercury going direct can be about losing momentum and trying to connect and communicate with a partner, right? Because that's literally about a partner like changing the way that they're communicating with him as the 7th house lord. And then you've got Saturn and Neptune in your 7th, where you're like, well, he's not trying. Where did he go? And now Saturn and Neptune are both direct. So what can we tell Amanda about what's going on? She's a Virgo rising Cap Sun. I mean, girl, you're gonna have like December into January, some really good dating transits. So if you decide you're done and you're single, it could be actually a time where there could be a lot of connection for you. But let's take a look. What does she need to know about this Sag rising Cancer sun who has gone MIA? And what about him and the relationship? So we've got the Nine of Cups, the Queen of Cups, and the Eight of Wands. I mean, these are really positive cards considering what's going on with both of your astrology. Like, you know, you'd have to look at what's going on with his natal 7th house lord, so his natal Mercury. Like, are there transits to that? Are there, you know, things squaring it? But the Nine of Cups talks about in the past, like getting everything you wanted. And so it can mean that this is like a wishful thinking card. It can also mean that you have felt very fulfilled with your connection. Maybe you liked the fact that he was reaching out and you were like, yeah, he's actually now, you know, showing me that he's got some motivation to work through some of our problems. And now he's trying to pursue me and he's trying to kind of connect with me. And you liked that and you were kind of kicking back and being like, yeah, he's going to have to earn back my trust, which if that's how you were feeling or acting, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The Queen of Cups is also talking about really leaning on your intuition and your gut and really trying to think about what it is that you really want in the long term. As I've said to you before, because you're a 29-degree rising, what I have observed for that Saturn-Neptune transit in your 7th house is like you trying to look beyond the mask or like the facade of what partners are projecting to you, because sometimes it can mean that they're hiding things and they're being sneaky. And I've heard it all from my Virgo risings. I've heard people who were like, I dated somebody and had no idea they just got out of jail, Pisces. I've been dating somebody and then I found out that they were a drug addict or they have alcohol issues or mental health issues. And I found out that I'm the other woman. I've heard all of that stuff. So there's definitely this sense of something coming to this realization that something is not totally honest or sincere. And there's been like this lack of transparency in relationships. But because you're that critical 29 degrees, there's something very significant that is going to change over the next 2 months. And you're going to feel that part of it's connected to your gut and your intuition and you going, okay, my gut's telling me, you know, just let it be, you know, don't chase him, wait for him to come through or prioritize myself or put myself first. And that may very well be the case. This could also mean that this is about how he sees you. You know, the Queen of Cups can mean that he's still attracted to you. There's still love there. He still values your connection. He still wants you. And the Eight of Wands can mean that things can actually progress pretty rapidly, especially over like the better part of the next 8 weeks, which I would agree with your astrology. As soon as Saturn gets, you know, kind of up in conjunction to Neptune in January and in February, there's going to be a make or break situation. And maybe it's the end of one phase of, you know, him being quiet and hiding out and being, you know, non-committal or not really trying. And then boom, as soon as it goes into Aries, it's going to be like, is he actually trying now? Is he actually showing up in a physical way? Because Aries is very different than Pisces. It could also mean that it's the dissolving of one phase of relationships and it's opening the door to something new and that, you know, you're going to take action and maybe pursue relationships with other people if he decides that he's going to be MIA. But the Eight of Wands is saying there is going to be quick movement over the next 8 weeks. Mars, Mercury, Venus, the sun, I mean, all those planets are going to go through your 5th house and they're going to be feeding off of Mars. So it can mean that suddenly, you know, somebody shows up, they come back and they are trying to wine and dine you, taking you out, romancing you, making you feel important. I will still go as far as saying there is still one final kind of reevaluation, I think, that's going to be happening. And that's going to be, you know, when you get to March, when there's a Mercury retrograde in your 7th. But prior to that, it does look like there is going to be quite a bit of like changes that are going to be happening very rapidly. The Eight of Wands means that the change is coming very quickly. You're not having to wait on it too long. It can be very passionate. There can be a really strong kind of connection. And I do think that that tracks with your astrology. My issue is knowing that he's a Sag rising and that, you know, Jupiter is somewhere around his sun. It means that he has to be willing to really look at himself emotionally and really be asking himself, what is he afraid to change? Why is he afraid to be vulnerable? Or why is he hiding things or being secretive? And like, what is it about that he needs to kind of work out so he can show up in a much more, I think, like honest way in a partnership. Also, you know, Sag risings, just with watching Uranus going in and out of their 7th house. I mean, it's going to happen again late spring, early summer in 2026. So there's no guarantee of stability next year. Certainly like with Mars and Uranus, there can be this sense of, you know, partners being impatient and kind of popping off or being inconsistent with communication. if they aren't being more upfront. So what I'm getting at is if what you have wanted is for him to chase you, I think the astrology indicates he hasn't been doing that because the retrograde maybe means he felt defeated and he wasn't making any headway with you, and he kind of retreated. But if you really want to connect with him, it looks like he wants to connect with you too, and there's still love there, and I think things can progress very quickly. But I will also remind you, there is going to be a huge change in your relationship dynamic between February and April. It will happen because Saturn and Neptune will go into Aries, because Mars will come into conjunction with Saturn and Neptune in your 7th house. And, that for you, being a Virgo rising is going to represent a new communication style. So moving forward in the relationship, if you guys are to continue, there would have to be a very different kind of level of communication. And I don't know if that means that he has to be better about reaching out or planning things, or, maybe you're just going to decide, I'm not going to communicate with him any longer. I'm going to open the door and see what else is there. But you'll have the North Node in your, technically in your whole sign 7th house in Pisces until the summertime. So that's going to continue to kind of open the door for new potential relationships. To see more of what's going on with your 7th house, you have to go and look at what transits are happening to your natal Jupiter. Obviously, as a Capricorn sun, Jupiter is in opposition to your sun. So what this means is that there is a sense of relationships feeling too far away. You're longing for it. And the 11th house represents your goals and your friends, but it is also the romantic interests of other people. It's 5th from the 7th. So maybe Jupiter showing up there, represented him kind of getting entangled with another person. And it definitely hurts the ego, astrology aside, but opposing your sun, it really does that. And I would say you can get what you want, but be careful what you wish for, because the 9 of Cups is wishing for something, and it can also mean that there is still a sense of idealizing and longing for something that he may not be able to give you totally and completely in the long term. It might be a quick spurt where he comes back for a minute, but really ask yourself, is that really what you want? Do you want him back so badly that you're willing to have him for like a short kind of exchange? And then is it going to kind of fall back into the same kind of cycle? Because this will literally be about 2 months from now. So you're looking at the end of February, and that's right after you're going to have some of these kind of Saturn-Neptune conjunctions. And what I think a lot of Virgo risings are going to be craving is more transparency, more intimacy. They want to feel that they are kind of aligning and merging with another person, and that they feel safe, right? Emotionally, physically, spiritually, all that stuff. So be careful what you wish for. All right, we have got Brianna, and then we have Amber. And let's see, let's see, who do we have here? Adriana and Miss Fogel. I got you guys too. All right, so Miss Brianna. Hi, Candace. I won't be able to make the live, but I'm curious about love. This month marks 10 whole years that I have been single. What does my love life have in store for me in 2026? I am a Scorpio sun, Gemini rising, Virgo moon. All right, well, let's take a look. Certainly, you got some mutable in there, mama. So I think about how just for Gemini risings, like everything that has been dominating your life is either getting out of relationships, or it's been about focusing on work and career. So you got to look at what's going on with your natal Mercury, and also what's going on with your natal Jupiter. And as a Gemini rising, Jupiter is in your 2nd house, so it can definitely bring partnerships that can feel more solid, or people who are investing in you more, feel like you're being chosen or that you're wanted. But let's see what the cards say. What do we need to know for Brianna for love in 2026? Is this going to be the magic year that breaks the 10-year curse? So we've got the Ace of Wands, we have got the Page of Pentacles, and we have got the 8 of Swords. So it's almost like a false start. It's like, I can do it. And then it's like actually doing it consistently and like going through the motions is what's, I think, going to be like your biggest hurdle. With the Ace of Wands coming up, it almost makes me feel like there has been a sudden change. Maybe it was this retrograde in your 7th house where you were like, do I want relationships? Do I not? And like, obviously a lot of planets have moved through your 7th house, and it's been squaring stuff in your career zone. So it feels like it's hard to kind of juggle relationships and work. But I think that's going to start to change a little bit. I think a lot of Gemini and Gemini risings are going to feel more social, more active, more dynamic, more willing to put themselves out there and kind of connect with new people, and just really focus on platonic friendships. And if love grows, then love grows. And you may potentially see that happening, especially when there are some conjunctions that are going to happen to Jupiter, or oppositions to Jupiter. So you'll see some oppositions in December. You'll see some conjunctions that are going to happen in June and July. And it looks like that Ace of Wands is kind of saying, you know, something is going to be reborn in the fire months. So right now we're about to leave Sagittarius season. My money is actually more on what's going on in March and April. And there's a lot of things that are flowing through your social zone, and it's really about putting yourself out there. Now, this can also mean that something has shifted with you recently where you're like, you know, I've kind of been like, yeah, relationships, whatever. But now there is like a spark, or there is like an interest, or there is something that is ignited where you're like, I feel like somebody might be coming. And the Page of Pentacles does talk about that preparation for that. So it can mean that you're doing the work, you're putting in investment in yourself, you're willing to invest time into, you know, social connections. Maybe it means that you're also focusing on not just bettering yourself emotionally, but focusing on getting your finances straight, taking care of your health, feeling like you're putting in more of an effort when it comes to your physical care. Other things that you are doing, because you might start noticing that you're like, I just have this feeling somebody might come in. You can meet somebody who can be an earth sign. So the Page of Coins can definitely be a Virgo, it can be a Taurus, it can be a Capricorn. And it looks like the seeds of first kind of getting more acclimated and connecting with people, and that slow and steady start of just getting comfortable back into dating will start happening for you, I think, in the springtime. I remember having like a conversation with like a friend of mine. This was a long time ago. Having a conversation with a friend of mine who was like a dating and relationship coach. And I was telling her at the time, I was like, I'm burnt out. I don't want to date. I just want to be alone and like die with cats. And she was like, no, you can't do that. And I just told her, I was like, after not being in a relationship for a long time, I was like, I don't really know how to get out there and meet somebody. And she said, it's very simple. She goes, I want you to spend literally the next 12 weeks, and I want you once a week to commit to going out on a date with somebody. Not the same person every week, just going out on one date and getting used to and getting into the flow of just meeting people. And it doesn't have to be a romantic date. It could be hanging out with a guy friend. It could be, you know, somebody that you meet online. It could be somebody you meet in person. Go and grab a coffee, go to the library, go to the beach, like, you know, have like a quick bite to eat. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just spend, you know, an hour or two going out with somebody and get back into the flow of it. And I kind of feel like that's the advice this is giving you. It's saying bring the spark back, get more comfortable with actually going out and doing things. So that way you're not getting too comfortable with that Eight of Swords of being like, oh my God, no, I can't do this. Because it looks like you would get overwhelmed with the idea of trying to throw yourself into finding the one, when in reality, this is more about just kind of getting back into the flow of getting on the horse. And I think the Eight of Swords is also saying that some of the issues and the hangups that you have with dating can be things that are more things that you have told yourself, preconceived notions of why love doesn't work, why maybe, you know, you're not going to find the one, why nobody likes me, or the excuses that you kind of make and tell yourself as to why you don't have the time. Because the Eight of Swords does talk about these limitations that we kind of put on ourselves, and that, you know, we almost do that to keep ourselves at a safe distance so that way we don't have to actually deal with the problem. And knowing that you're Gemini rising, I would say this is such a wonderful year to just be putting yourself in situations, especially in February, March, April, where you're just going where the people are. And when you find that there are trines or conjunctions or sextiles to Jupiter, so like Scorpio season was one opportunity for you to change your schedule. You'll see another one that's going to happen in March. And then there's going to be another one that's going to happen in June. June going into July, when Mercury's retrograde right alongside Jupiter, might set you up to meet someone. And then that opens the door to connecting with people even more so, I think over like July going into August. So you have to look at your natal Jupiter and what's kind of going on there. But I think that this is just about you not getting so overwhelmed with the idea of having to find someone, more going, okay, I'm just going to start going out and doing the things that I like, getting active and investing in trying to do quality things that's going to bring in somebody who's going to be a match, and just getting used to dating, right? It's called dating for a reason. You have to kind of get out there and see what you like. And that means with the Page of Pentacles that you have to become a little bit more comfortable with doing that. But I think that if you can do that, and if you can overcome some of the hangups and the fears that you have revolving around being seen, literally the Eight of Swords is like, you know, don't look at me, then there can be an opportunity for you to connect with people. And I would keep my eyes out for somebody who's an earth sign. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Brianna. Definitely. When you watch this, you can leave me a comment, give me some feedback. I'd like to hear what you think. All right, we've got Amber and then Adriana. So Amber says, should have added Astro with my question. I'm a Cancer rising, Scorpio moon, Pisces. He's a Leo rising, Scorpio moon, Sag sun. Okay, so let's see what Amber says. Relationship card pull. Contacts have been with my husband for 25 years and it feels like we are out of alignment. Well, Cancer rising, you're going to notice over the next month there's going to be a lot of planets going through Capricorn that's going to be opposing Jupiter. So you're going to be like, are we on the same page? Are we not? And also a lot of this can be Saturn too. I feel like a lot of this is whether or not you guys have like the same perspectives and philosophy, and if you guys have the same interests, or you feel like you're kind of drifting. And then, you know, he's a Leo rising. So for the next 2 years, I mean, you're going to see eclipses starting to come in his 7th house in the beginning of February. It'll be marking about 2.5 years where there has to be more focus on what's kind of going on with the evolution of relationships. And, you know, there's been Mercury retrogrades and Mars retrogrades that have gone through, obviously, Leo. So a lot of Leo and Leo risings have gone through a lot of shifts as well. So let's take a look. What can I tell Amber about what she needs to know regarding this relationship? She's been married for 25 years and she's feeling a little bit out of alignment. What does she need to know? Whenever I pull this card, I always look at the bottom of the deck. So the card that I got for you is the Two of Swords. So there's this sense of you going, do I stay or do I go? You know, is this going to work, or am I just blinding myself to problems and things that I don't want to acknowledge or things that I don't want to talk about? I also feel like there is a sense of you guys intentionally like ignoring the elephant in the room. Like I don't know you, obviously I'm talking to somebody through a camera on the internet, but I kind of get the impression with this card coming up that it's like both parties know something is up, but nobody really wants to confront the other person, which I think is kind of wild. If you guys both have like a lot of like Scorpio placements and like if you have some fire placements in there, you should be able to. You're a Pisces sun, so Saturn, Neptune's in your sun sign. I don't care what your rising sign is. It basically means that there's something going on where you're feeling this isolation, and the South Node eclipses in Virgo are going to represent changes that are going on with relationships. Granted, it's happening in your 3rd house. So there's this sense of being like, why aren't we talking anymore? Like, what's going on? And the Two of Swords is saying, like, you have to get out of this funk of just wanting to ignore the elephant in the room. It's almost like getting it all out in the open. Cancer risings have really great astrology for like the next 2 months. Like they're going to see a triple conjunction in Capricorn. I actually talk about it in my Sunday video this week. We're going to see a new moon in Capricorn that's going to sextile Saturn. Like there's a lot of room for strength, but if you're having issues, you know, kind of connecting and communicating with your husband, know that Aquarius in his 7th house means that relationships actually, there needs to be a friendship first, right? So there has to be that. And also I would say a lot of Cancer risings are going to evolve in their relationships through learning something with their partner, traveling with their partner, taking a course with their partner, maybe reading a book or doing something on like improving the relationship. But the communication is not working and both parties are just acting like nothing is wrong. And I think that's creating a lot of mental stress. I do think that with the card that came up as the confirmation card was the Death card, that it's basically saying you got to say something before it gets to the point where then it is almost irreparable, because you're going to start to feel like alone, or that the relationship is like, it doesn't have a heartbeat, right? The death card can mean that it gets to a point where things are unbearable and then somebody goes, that's it, I'm done. And it can almost seem like this volcano moment where it comes out of nowhere and it's shocking and it's hard and it's difficult. And, you know, somebody just either decides that they're fed up, or somebody decides that, you know, they're just going to blow up. And this situation can be prevented, is what I'm getting at. It can be prevented if both parties check in with each other and sit down and go, hey, are we okay? What's going on? This is how I'm feeling. How are you feeling? And like, can we talk about it? Can we work through it? Rather than just kind of silently suffering with the Two of Swords and like waiting for that implosion or waiting for something to happen. That's like a huge defining moment that may be such a big deal that it's going to keep you guys from being able to actually work together and like salvage the relationship. Sometimes when the Death card comes up, it can also say that there's about to be something that's just going to be so out of the box and unexpected and radical and challenging that it's forcing you guys to have to evolve. And if you don't evolve together, then there's a change. And it can be a really difficult change to navigate. I would ask you to think back to what was happening 18 or 19 years ago, right? So you want to think about what was happening the last time the North Node was kind of going through Aquarius. Now, obviously, if you guys have been married for 25 years, you went through that time period. So go back and think about what was happening then. You know, what was your relationship like? Was he having to put you first? Did you need him more? Did you guys in any way, shape, or form kind of start? Because it seems to me like as a Cancer rising, the North Node's going through the 8th house soon next year. And that's going to be more about intimacy and vulnerability, and also talking about joint financial stuff, which the Death card can talk about as well. And it can be about not just communicating and focusing on the friendship or even, you know, discussing things that are important, but like the intimacy aspect that may be lacking as a result of feeling like you guys aren't connecting on an intellectual level, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. That is definitely quite the spread, my dear. And any Aquarius rising, Leo rising who's going to start having these eclipses, they're definitely going to see big changes in their relationships because Pluto's in their 7th house too. All right, so we've got Adriana and Miss Fogel. You guys are next. And if there's other people that want to pop in, definitely pop in. We got Nay that slid in there too. All right, so let's see what Adriana says. You're welcome. Hi, Candace. Anything I need to know right now? I'm a Libra rising, Virgo sun, Sag moon. Thanks, Adriana. All right, well, let's see what I can tell you, girl. As a Libra rising myself, I would be watching over the next week or two when Venus comes into a square with Saturn, because that can mean that there are some vehicle issues with siblings, difficult communication and scheduling stuff at work, be careful driving, okay, or anything in regards to just kind of feeling like you're squished with your time limits. But let's see what the cards say for you, what you need to know. We've got the 8 of Swords, we've got the Emperor card, and we've got the 6 of Wands. I love this. I feel like this is about feeling like a situation is kind of closing in on you and that you handle it like a boss, that you're able to kind of come through the other side and like be victorious. And maybe that's part of the fact that some of the stuff that's in Sagittarius is going to be having a superior square to Saturn and Neptune and all these planets. I think the 8 of Swords can also be talking about just the immense amount of emotional and psychological kind of mix-up that's been happening, right? Because Mercury rules your natal 12th house and your 9th house. And so I don't know if you have felt like the Mercury retrograde was a period of being like, I don't know if I should have this conversation, or dealing with some like mental anxiety or mental stress, and potentially some things where you kind of feel like I said, the walls are kind of closing in. I also know that a lot of Libra risings have been feeling either very overwhelmed with work or very overwhelmed with just their day-to-day. And I feel like that the Emperor card coming up after the 8 of Swords is saying, rather than feeling like you're stuck in this situation and you're kind of like stuck in mud and you can't move, now all of a sudden there is more of a push and motivation to be like, no, I'm going to get stuff done. And leveling up, showing up, taking responsibility, being brave, not being afraid to, you know, confront people. This can be about dealing with bosses, superiors, parents, you know, elder siblings, husbands as well. The Emperor card really is about this person who can come in that can either help support you and like encourage you to like be the best version of yourself, or it can be you channeling that more kind of masculine energy yourself. Obviously, you're a fire moon. So I think about, you know, the Mercury retrograde being in Sagittarius, so probably somewhere near your moon. How do I learn how to assert myself more at work? How do I learn how to, you know, problem solve, or how to, you know, speak in front of people and kind of command an audience? Or how do I get people to kind of hear me out or respect me? And like probably there's been a lot of working through that, but you have found your power in the process of that. So that Emperor really represents leveling up, and then the 6 of Wands represents some success that's coming from some of the changes that you have made, and also feeling like you can be victorious where there has been situations where you're like, I don't know how I'm going to make this date or how I'm going to be able to take this on. A lot of it's delegating tasks. I have found that squares to planets in the 6th house is going, you know, hey, I've got a problem, you know, it's worth hiring somebody for a solution, or it's worth asking somebody at work if they can cover my shift, or it's worth, you know, going and having the laundry done, or, you know, having food catered. Silly things that are way too much on your to-do list that feel overwhelming, and you're learning through communicating and like letting people know that you need a little bit of buffer time, or you're going to be, you know, potentially needing to push things out. You can get stuff done without putting that pressure on yourself. And a lot of it's going to be just through communicating and letting people know what you do and do not have time for. So I think that 6 of Wands is about being able to come out the other side, especially in about 6 weeks time, being like, yes, I mastered it. I handled that situation. This may also be kind of warning you that, you know, there is definitely some stuff that you're going to have to really show up for when it comes to, you know, defining yourself and having better boundaries with people. So Libra risings are going to see the first couple of months of 2026 Saturn and Neptune going in the 7th house is either going to be the beginning phase of a brand new period in relationships where you're embracing relationships in a very different way. And maybe you're bringing in older, wiser, more mature people, or you're seeing your partners go through a huge change. And then Libra risings who are partnered with the Saturn-Neptune transit, because this is the area of Aries, will end relationships, and relationships will suddenly end and they will be done. So this is about you maybe not taking on too much, learning to tell other people what you need help with, so that way maybe it's not putting stress on relationships, and also really prioritizing your mental health, so that way as you're going into that transit, you're going to know just exactly how much of other people's stuff you want to take on. So and in the end, I think that the 6 of Wands means that you're successful in the process. It's just going to be about a 6-week wait. Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, so we have got Miss Fogel and we've got Nay in the Bay. Let's see, is there anybody else in here? All right, for Miss Fogel, and if you guys want to get your reading, sign into the queue before we call last call. We're going to call last call soon. Miss Fogel says, return to work after 2 weeks off. While gone, a coworker basically called me a slacker in the company note. Today, I made a small mistake, and now in my head, I'm about it big time. Been there 10 years, and I'm tapped out so much of this. Past has been tough, and I want a new career ASAP. What do the cards have to say? All right, well, let's take a look for you, Miss Fogel. Thank you for your generosity. I appreciate you. What's up with this coworker talking shit while you're gone? All right, well, you've been there for 10 years, so you're coming up on a cycle. So let's see, is she thinking too much into this? What do we need to know about what's going on with the career, because she wants a change? And what can we tell her? All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3. Page of Swords, King of Wands, 10 of Swords. Man, it kind of feels like the 10 of Swords is like, why would somebody do me like that? Or why would they say that, you know? And it sounds like you're aware that you're a little burnt out. Remind me if I'm correct, you're Virgo rising, right? I know you got Virgo somewhere in your chart, but I think you're like a later Virgo rising. I think about how just Virgos in general, you know, like with Uranus going into Gemini, it does represent a lot of unexpected, you know, things and talk and changes potentially with work. For Virgo rising, like eclipses that are going to be in the 6th house, and that's about overcoming challenges with coworkers and or your schedule and health. Yeah, exactly how I feel. Libra rising, Virgo sun, that's what it was. And now Saturn and Neptune are direct back in your 6th house. So that's what's going on. I think that the Page of Swords, like, I wouldn't pay any mind. Like, I understand that that sucks to hear that, but the Page of Swords is like somebody is just kind of being an asshat and they're just like running their mouth and they're saying things. And I think a lot of it might be because when the Page of Swords comes up in the current position, it's somebody who's not being very responsible or maybe not even very aware of like who's going to see what they're saying. And the 6th house does deal with like enemies. So it's about like overcoming issues with enemies where people are deflecting and not taking responsibility for things that are not getting done. They're pushing it off on you. So you may have taken a break, they were picking up the slack or they were involved in that, and they come in and they're making excuses for, you know, oh, well, I have so much stuff and I couldn't get it all done because she doesn't do her work. So this isn't, you know, this isn't all on me. And I think with the Page of Swords not facing the King of Wands, it means like you literally need to be out of sight, out of mind. This also means that other superiors and stuff at work, even though they may go through those notes and stuff, I don't see this being anything that they're going to be like calling you on the mat for. Like, I don't see somebody being like, oh, we need to have a meeting with her and discuss, you know, why he's complaining about the things that he had to get done. I don't see that being the case. I feel like if anything, the King of Wands can represent you seeing this and you being kind of like, you know, putting a fire under your ass and being like, well, I'm going to show you, right? And just know, as a Libra rising, because Saturn and Neptune are right on your descendant, get ready, you know, put a helmet on, because this is going to be about confronting other people. Saturn is going to be about other people's harshness and criticism. Neptune is going to be about the people that you work with, but it can also be about people who you didn't know had like a vendetta. And I think that the King of Wands is really about you being like, okay, I'm going to level up. I'm recognizing that maybe I am tired. I've been a little burnt out. Hopefully you got some rest coming back to work. And know that like if there's going to be a job change, obviously look at what's going on with your moon, but Jupiter's in your 10th house all year. I mean, that's a time where you can really get into a position that you can feel like a leader, you can feel heard, or you can be communicating and like overseeing things for businesses. You will also probably see with like the Mercury retrograde in your 6th house coming up in February and March that there could be some changes. And like, I do think that you will leave this job. I feel like I wouldn't take what he said to heart, but I feel like it is making you realize like, damn, okay, maybe I'm not totally on my game. I need to kind of step it up a little bit, especially if you do leave. I feel like the 10 of Swords is you wanting to leave on your own terms. You don't want to feel like somebody said something and then other people noticed, and then it was like this like slow snowball kind of effect to where it built up to where then you're like leaving and you feel like you don't have a say in it. Like I think you would rather leave on your own terms. What I do like about the eclipses that are coming in this next year for Libras and Libra risings, especially in February, if you want to take a risk and you want to try to do something more creative, or you want to go in a direction where you feel more fulfilled and you want to do something you haven't done before, you can. You'll be able to do that. It's going to be a risk because it's going to square Uranus. So I would say don't quit your day job yet. But you can start the process of doing that, and then you can consider making a change in March when the retrogrades come in, because it's going to be ruled by Jupiter. Or you could consider making a change that could be closer to like June going into July. And I think that would be better because then you're going to see that you've had enough time to kind of feel what's out there and see what direction you want to go in, and then, you know, maybe take some risks and do some things that are different. But I wouldn't pay any mind to it because this guy looks like he's definitely lower than you on the totem pole, just to be honest. I mean, you're a king, he's a page. And also because I don't think you're going to be there that long anyway. And make this motivation, don't turn it into something where you're like, oh, you know, people are going to be calling me out for some stuff. And if it makes you feel empty, use the eclipse in early February to start taking risks and doing things that are going to be a little bit more creative and a little bit more fun, right? Hopefully that's helpful, and I hope you're feeling better. That's definitely difficult when like you're gone because you're, you know, taking care of business, or you're healing, or you're resting, and then you come back and you have to deal with like pettiness in the workplace. Not a fan of Saturn and Neptune going through the 6th house. I know what that's like. Yeah, definitely motivating to the exit, definitely. With Jupiter in your 10th house, it's a good year to lean into that emotionally, being like, and I think it's time to make a switch, you know? Hope you're feeling better. We've got Nay in the Bay. Every time I see your name, I want to say Nay Nay. Do people call you Nay Nay? I had a good friend that she went by Nay Nay. All right, guys, we're calling last call. So if you want to get in before I shut it down, let me know. Miss Nay says, what does my love life look like in the months to come? I'm an Aries sun, Taurus moon, Leo rising. Oh, to be a Leo rising, having eclipses in your 7th house. That's square Uranus. Change of status, change of relationships, change of jobs maybe. And also just knowing that you're an Aries sun, that's going to be interesting too, because you've got all that Aries that's in the 9th house. So maybe traveling for love, maybe meeting new people. Let's see what the cards say. What can we tell Nay about love in the months to come? 1, 2, 3. We've got the 8 of Wands. We've got the Ace of Swords. We've got the Lover's card. Girl, watch out for a very sexy Gemini. Could happen. It could be a Gemini. I also feel like this is going to really revolve around the air month. So it's interesting that I was like, okay, so you have this Leo rising. Mid-February, there's going to be a solar eclipse right on the Lunar New Year. That's going to be in your 7th house, Aquarius. Which is planting a new seed for relationships. Also, you're going to see that Mars is going to be there. So having Mars being there as a Leo rising, you might be traveling and you meet somebody. You might meet somebody in an airport. You can meet somebody, you know, training or getting some classes or something that's going to be about traveling with friends or going somewhere you've never been before. And I like that because the spread actually starts with the 8 of Wands, which means there's something that's really revving up. Like it's more than just, okay, 8 of Wands could be passion and adventure and something that's kind of fleeting, but it means that there's something that's building up that's like incentivizing you or asking you to go places or take risks. And also it'll be over the next immediate 8 weeks that you're going to see this change, which really lines up with your astrology. The Eight of Wands is also saying that this is about intention, right? So it's about kind of saying to yourself, I want to meet somebody who wants to go on adventures. I want to meet somebody who's interesting. I want to meet somebody who's continuing to grow and kind of learn. And maybe it's, in a way, incentivizing you to, you know, start taking risks. Now, the Ace of Swords talks about timing. So this can mean that during the, you know, energies revolving around Aquarius season, which is when you're going to see these energies kick up, although that solar eclipse is kind of planting a seed, that's going to take about 6 to 12 months to see the bigger picture of what's going to be happening with the North Node coming into your 7th house. Now, this can mean that it could be, you know, Aquarius season, you know, January, February. It could be May into June when we have Gemini season. It could be September into October when we have Libra season. But I have a feeling it's going to start up in February. And it's going to be something that's going to go February all the way clear till the end of the year. Obviously, it's really highlighting the Lover's card. So it talks about options, choices, duality, more than one people. It's also possible that this can be somebody who is very, what's the word? It's like they're very charismatic. I think like the Ace of Swords and the Lover's card is somebody who's like, well, what are you waiting for? Like somebody who's going to be really kind of like direct with you and honest in a way that almost is like kind of terrifying, because it may be something that starts very quickly, and it might be something where you're like, this is too good to be true. And like, can I give myself to this person? Can I open myself up and put myself in a situation where I'm willing to go on this ride with them? And like, it's really, I think, somebody who you're going to fall for because they feel very mentally stimulating to me, and somebody who can be very direct and very honest with you. Maybe, you know, having some conversations that you have never had, or being able to kind of practice levels of like transparency and vulnerability that has not felt comfortable to you, and somebody who's going to kind of ask you questions that are going to make you go like, oh my God, do I want to answer that? But I think it's a good thing. And if you're looking to be mentally stimulated while simultaneously having a connection with somebody who's really a breath of fresh air, and somebody who is very truthful in their endeavors with you, I think that it's going to be an adventure. I just feel like there is something that's like a little like risky or a little tempting, because the Lover's card can talk about that duality. So knowing that you're a Leo rising, you know, your 7th house is Aquarius, which means you're going to bring people in that are going to be different, quirky, aloof, unusual. And also it means that this is really focusing on your friendship first, and getting to know them in that sense, and then letting the relationship kind of evolve from there. So it may not be something that's immediately a physical connection. It might be more just there is an attraction, you get to hang out, you get to know each other, you guys get to know each other on a personal level, and then it can evolve into something, and then you're going to be like, do I want to take this next step with this person? Like, am I risking a really good friendship? Or is there something about them that really makes you kind of wonder whether or not you're going to get your heart broken? So you have to decide whether or not you're willing to take that risk. But I think it's worth the risk. Like if you're not willing to get your heart broken, then you don't get to play the game. And I think some of the conversations that you're going to have with him are going to make you kind of realize like, wow, there's a lot of depth to this person. And it's giving you a lot more clarity in terms of what it is that you actually want in a relationship. Looks very exciting. All right, so we're calling last call, but I do see that Rosie popped in there. So I've got you, girl. I'll take care of you. And we got Vanessa too. All right, so what's up, Rosie? Hi, okay, sneaking in at last call. Please read. Coworkers do not like me. I don't even know what to ask. I guess I should just focus on my energy after a while. Do you want to connect or see someone happy to work with you and deliver at a high level? All right, well, let's take a look at what we can tell Miss Rosie about this situation with some difficult coworkers. Maybe I should just say, like, what's the energy, what's the block, like, what does she do about it? Okay, so let's see the energies right now. All right, so we have got the Four of Coins, we have got the Judgment card, and we have got the Four of Swords. So there's 2 fours here, so I'm just going to kind of put this out there. Maybe it doesn't feel good, but the fours tell me that there is stability. Like, it's not to the point where you're potentially losing your job. I don't see anybody who's trying to push you out necessarily. I do feel like there can be some competitiveness and some pettiness with the Four of Coins coming up. It's about people who might potentially not want to let go of control, or people who hold grudges, or people who are going to be, just like petty. I feel like the Four of Swords is, well, if you don't do this, I'm not doing that. or they've said this, so they will hold like a grudge, or they will like hold something against you. And it's like people who are acting really immaturely and they're not like letting things go, which is a bummer. Because with the Four of Coins, if you're holding on to that stuff, it really hinders productivity. It hinders people feeling safe and secure at work. It also creates an environment that feels very cold and very detached, and not that you can't get work done, but it would be so much more conducive to feel like everybody was kind of like in unison, and people are still holding on to things. Now, in terms of what's kind of happening right now, what you do about it, I get the Judgment card. So this means that you're being faced with a decision where you're literally saying to yourself, I can see the passive aggressiveness, or I can see the animosity or the jealousy, and there's definitely some stuff going on, but like, do I confront it? Do I say something? Because the Judgment card is saying you recognize that if you do that, that those actions are going to potentially have consequences. And you're trying to debate whether or not you want to dig up the past, or if you want to be bringing up scenarios and kind of talking about what has happened and whether or not that's going to be a good idea. She said, agree. I know on my own anxiousness that trips me up, and should just do the small things well and repeat and not overthink it. Yeah, but I'm just telling you, you're not crazy. So whether it's other people who kind of have like weird vendettas, or they feel like they kind of got like miffed and they haven't let it go, or it's you going in there kind of being like, okay, I got to hold my own because people are out to get me. Like, everybody just needs to kind of let go. And I think in this case with the Judgment card, it is saying that you're not going to be confrontational, because the next card is the Four of Swords. I think it's about you kind of looking at the situation and going, it's going to be more about me going into the environment and trying to keep the peace, and also trying to be in a situation where you're not trying to dig up the past, and you're trying to kind of really focus on smoothing out some of the ruffled feathers, so that way you're not so stressful and anxious. A lot of it might be about a routine that you have prior to kind of going into work. It can also mean that you're willing to practice releasing and letting go and forgiveness, and like not going into work being like, she did this and he did that and they don't like me. Like, really genuinely trying to kind of clear that out. And it might mean breathing exercises, journaling. It might mean that you're saging yourself or something, because this is a card of rest, and this is about letting things lie where they are and not feeling like you need to perpetuate some of that, like mentally. Not that you're creating problems, but it's more that. Right, do I call out the elephant, or just say I'm struggling and here's how I plan to fix my part? I think it's more you going into it being like, whatever has happened, but like, I don't want to rock the boat. And I also get the impression that because people are so holding on to either keeping that block or keeping that kind of grudge, and you're going in being like, okay, I wave the white flag. Like, I really feel if you were to go in and if you were to make an effort to kill them with kindness, and show them that you're not there to kind of perpetuate the problem, and be like, hey, I'm just, just doing something nice. Or you come in on a Friday and you bring a box of donuts, or, you start paying people a couple compliments, and like you surprise people because you're not going to dish it back out to them. It means that things could actually start to kind of calm down, because part of your anxiety of being like, oh, I'm just going to hide out, actually might be them going, well, what's wrong with her? Why doesn't she like us? Like, there can be a mirrored effect. You get what I'm saying? Especially because the Four of Coins is somebody saying, we're going to kind of hold off. And the Four of Swords is somebody saying, well, they don't like me. There may be a ping pong where you guys are kind of propelling that back and forth to one another. And if you break that cycle, and even if they are being assholes and you're nice to them and you kill them with kindness, they're going to be like, what's going on with her? Like, maybe we shouldn't be so mean. And there can actually be a shift in their perspective. Like the Judgment card means that you're making the call to be the one to say, hey, you know what? I realize that actions have repercussions. I don't want to create problems. I actually want peace. I want to go in and I want to be in a relaxed state when I go into work. And it can also be like mantras and other things that you're doing, that you're listening to before you go to work, or things, breath work you're doing before you walk into work too. Mirroring, they love my predecessor. I don't think of it as clearly as I did. I just don't think that clearly. Well, I mean, I think that this would be something I'd be trying to do over the next couple weeks, because fours can be talking about the next 4 weeks, the next 4 months. But I do get the impression that when we start to kind of break down some of the walls or the issues or the insecurities, we realize that there really isn't a problem to begin with. It's just a genuine misunderstanding of each other. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Rosie. Sounds like it's a sticky situation to be in, but it sounds like you've got a good perspective on it. All right, readings are now closed. We've got Vanessa and we've got Rachel up next. I asked questions to get to know them since I'm new, and they got guarded, and then I thought I was trying to almost like follow them. So that's that Four of Coins, right? So I feel like with the Four of Swords, it can mean that you go in and you have nice little gestures, but you let them come to you. You're welcome. All right, let's see what's up with Vanessa. You snuck in there. She says, 3 cards, please. What can I do or not do about my daughter's constant need to be out? She never ever stays home. She's admitted she gravitates towards her friends' parents more than me. And she said, I don't know why I'm always annoyed with you. I don't want to be around you. Help, please. What's up? Oh boy. Where is her moon again? Is her moon in Capricorn or is it in Aquarius? Because I feel like she's got like either some Pluto transits around her moon. There's something going on there. But let's see what the cards say. But if her moon's in Aquarius, especially in the earlier degrees, I remember seeing her chart a long time ago. I know she had a lot of Capricorn. But if Pluto's coming up near her Aquarius, that's a very, I'm purging stuff that's going on with my mom vibe. Let's flip that over. Also, you know, teenage things. Teenage things. All right, let's take a look and let's see. What do the cards say about Vanessa's relationship with her daughter? Never wanted to be home, and she wants to know what is going on and how we can give her some guidance. All right, we got Knight of Swords, the Tower card, and the Six of Pentacles. So I'm not a parent. I cannot tell you how to be a parent, but I can tell you with the Knight of Swords and the Tower card coming up, it's more that kind of earth-shattering realization that a kid is saying something to you that you're like, wait, what? Like, how? Why I can't even comprehend, I can't understand, like, why you would say that or why you feel that way. And so I do think that with the Knight of Swords, it can represent somebody who is saying things to you that can be kind of like combative or confrontational, or people who are being just kind of cross or really kind of like direct with you and like not really having a lot of concern for your feelings. And in the process of just saying, you know, like what's on their mind, they're really revealing quite a bit about their true, you know, feelings about your relationship. So I would say it's hard not to take it personally, but I would look at this and I would be like, whoa, the Tower moment is you're telling me that you don't want to be home. I wouldn't take offense to that so much, but when they're telling you I gravitate towards other people's friends' parents, I would be like, wait a second. Like, what is this? Like, what am I not getting here? And I think the Six of Pentacles is really talking about the exchange and the give and the take between the two of you, and that there can be something that's kind of off here where if there is too much leniency with her kind of going out and doing things, or if there is too much of a sense of maybe feeling like she's not appreciative, or that there isn't a real kind of like fair exchange and the relationship has become transactional, because that's the downside of the Six of Pentacles, then something does need to be kind of like reoriented about the relationship. You know, unfortunately with the Knight of Swords, he's running away from the Tower. So it's almost like he's starting a fire and then he's like, okay, peace out, see you later. And literally this could be the kid leaving the house and going to their friend's house and leaving you sitting at home being like, oh my God, my kid doesn't want anything to do with me, you know, and like, what's wrong with me as a parent and like, what's going on? And I genuinely feel like what you're seeing is that there may be more of a sense of balance that's going on in other people's homes. And I think that I get that from the Six of Pentacles. It can mean that maybe they're gravitating towards homes where, you know, parents have, you know, kids have two parents, that there is a mother and a father who's going to be more a disciplinary kind of person, and then they're going to have mom who's going to be more kind of like the nurturing energy, right? And perhaps maybe they're seeing that perspective of the balance and going like, oh, mom and dad are as a team, they work together, you know, and they may both kind of support one another and like hold down the fort. Now, also you are going to see teenagers that are going to be like, well, I like going to so-and-so's house because their parents are never home and they don't care if we drink or do whatever. And that could be the case as well, because this does talk about kind of reckless behavior and certain kids being given certain freedoms and being able to get away with things that they know they can't get away with at your house. But I think it's actually more you're falling into having to play the role of two parents. She may primarily live with you. She may not really be on good terms with her dad. She may feel like, okay, mom used to be like my buddy, my best friend, but now I'm getting older. And like, obviously it's hard being a mom, having gone through being a teenager yourself and seeing how boys are and seeing how the world is. Like, you're going to want to protect your kid. But she may see this as not having that balance. And maybe also it's because there has been some disruption in the balance where things kind of shift from you being really close and being like friends, and then almost like it gets a little too friendly, and then you have to snap back and you have to be the authority figure and you have to be mom, and she doesn't like that, you know? And like that's a hard kind of position to be in, because obviously you love your kids, you want to be you know, in a good relationship with them, but being too close with them or being too generous or giving them too much, I would say, like, slack with the Six of Coins could mean they could take advantage of that. And then the second that they feel like, you know, you're not being their friend, you're being their mom, they're like, well, I'm going to go somewhere else. And I do think that there were some of the things that she said, not really thinking some of the damage that was going to be done. And so I'm not telling you to like totally wig out and, you know, get crazy strict or give her a bunch of freedom. I think there needs to be some kind of like middle ground here. But the damage has been done. Whatever has been said has been said. And I think that Six of Pentacles is about you kind of being like, look, we need to kind of have a come to Jesus moment. Like, you live in my house, you know, like I want to get along with you and I want to spend time with you. But also my house is not going to be treated like a, you know, like a Motel 8 where you're just coming and going and you just, you know, just come here and stay here as you please. I think that if you have that conversation with her, that like the house needs to be respected, and also that she needs to have respect for the fact that you're not only taking care of her, but also providing for everything that she needs, and also trying to be there to support her as her mom. And if she doesn't appreciate that, then you guys need to have these conversations rather than her dropping bombs and making you feel really unappreciated and then not being there to deal with the consequences. And I don't think it was intentional. I think it was just more kind of like her going, well, I can go and do what I want to do in other places, and like I have more freedom in other places, so that's what I'm going to do, you know? So, I mean, it's got to be really hard, because I mean, it gives me the goosebumps just thinking about how I was when I was a teenager, because I know I'm going to get my dose of that at some point in the future. But I think that there needs to be a sense of really kind of instilling in her that you love her, and of course you want to get along with her, but at the end of the day, you're her mom, you're not her friend. And I think because there can be too much of going into the direction of wanting to be her friend because, like, you know, she's cool and she's getting older and you can start kind of having that relationship with her, but she's not respecting you. And so if she's not respecting you, then you really need to look at the situation and be like, you live under my roof, these are my rules, and I'm not telling you to tell her to go, but she does need to have a better appreciation for what you were doing. So that way that you guys can kind of like reinstate the balance, right? Difficult stuff, especially when you're dealing with teenage girls. So I feel for you, and I hope that you're able to have that conversation with her and not take some of the stuff that she said to heart. Let's see, who else do we have? We've got Rachel, and we've got Iman and Brianna. They all kind of got in there. So readings are now closed. Okay, so let's see what Rachel says. What's up, Rachel? Can I get a reading on my relationship with Pajama Guy? I feel like it's make or break moment. Rachel, how many years, girl? I'm impressed, honestly. It's the Taurus in you that just does not want to quit him, which I admire quite a bit. All right, so it's a make or break moment for Rachel. If you guys have been following the Pajama Guy saga, it's been a back and forth thing for a while, and it sounds like things are getting critical now that Saturn and Neptune are about to leave your 7th house. It is make or break. She says this other guy keeps coming in when he gets distant. So let's see, what do we need to know about what's going on with Pajama Guy? If there's somebody else that's kind of coming and going, where does she go? Well, Page of Coins comes up, which is interesting. So let's look at the bottom card, and then you get the 5 of Swords. It's almost like he's giving you enough just to keep you on. And this is not my judgment of Pajama Guy. This is the page of somebody being like, here you go. You know, like I'll just do little things here and there, or I'll just do just the bare minimum or just enough. And this does represent an energy of somebody who is still not getting it, or childlike, or immature in some capacity when it comes to the real needs and like the physicality and the commitment of a relationship, right? Breadcrumbs, Page of Coins, yeah. And so for that card to come up, it's saying, okay, well, he's initiated, he's made some changes. It's a start, but like still acting like a kid. And with the bottom card being the 5 of Swords crossing that means that when you do confront him or you try to talk to him about this, it almost feels like it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That then he will retreat because you're, you know, either holding him accountable or you're kind of calling him on things that you guys talked about that you were going to do, or if you were making plans to move forward, if he's not doing it, you're just kind of like Five of Swords is literally, oh, you know what? I'm just going to cut my losses. And instead of like having the conversation with you and like showing up and telling you, yeah, I do want to do these things, like he'll just either get defensive or he's going to check out. And so you feel like it's like an uphill battle. Knowing the astrology, I'm going to point you to February and March, because you're going to see with like the eclipses, that's going to give you a definitive turning point in regards to how you feel with the relationship. And it's more about you deciding that emotionally you can't handle the back and forth and the inconsistency. And it's also going to be about you kind of going, how much space am I holding for this person who I feel like it's not going anywhere? And there's this other person coming in, I'm not able to kind of give it a fair shake or like a fresh start, right? Because the Page of Coins can be like, I have something else that I can start with another person. If you're not in, or if you're in and out, like how can I really now start diverting more of my energy to potentially giving this like a fair run, right? And like there can definitely be a lot of back and forth. I think a lot of this is also Pluto squaring your Venus too, right? I think that's from what I remember. Venus in Taurus, so Pluto squaring that. So that's happening from the 6th house, which is going to be more, are they making time for you? You know, I mean, are they potentially becoming more of a hassle, you know, than a potential partner? And I could also see this being like a lot of scheduling and kind of timing things and kind of being in the dark, right? Because that's 12th house to your 7th. Pluto is squaring my Venus and his Mercury. Yeah, and he has all that Aries, you know? So like in this next year with Saturn going into Aries and opposing all of his like Libra stuff and conjuncting his planets in Aries, it's going to be accountability and whether or not, you know, he's not taking accountability and being seen in a mature fashion. And like life is going to hit him pretty hard, not just in relationship land, but also career-wise and like a lot of other things. So I look at this and I'm like, girl, like you can keep this going if you want. But to all of my Virgo risings who are not feeling totally fulfilled in relationships, I'm going to tell all of you guys, like, fucking leave them. Not to be insensitive, but like leave them alone, you know? Like they're going to hide out and do their thing and not be consistent with Saturn and Neptune direct. While for the next month, you guys are going to have planets going through your 5th house, which could be really great for dating and romance and meeting people and, you know, being wined and dined and at least giving that an opportunity to see what happens. And you can still make up your mind as you get into February and March with the retrograde and the eclipse. But I feel like this is a sense of you going, I'm sick of feeling like I keep trying to, you know, start over with you or never making any headway. And I feel like you're getting to where you're not even really pushing for it anymore because you feel like they're not meeting you halfway. Hopefully he doesn't get you pajamas for Christmas. Let him go. You know, I have all that Scorpio too. Well, I mean, yes, of course, it's difficult, especially when you have stuff on the Scorpio-Taurus axis, because like love and possession can be one and the same. But I think that there's also this sense of what you learn from Scorpio and Taurus is that when something dies or something ends or, you know, some kind of ugly, inconvenient truth comes out, only then can it be purged, and then there can be new life that comes from the opposition with Taurus. And so if you got your Mercury, your Sun in Taurus, it's what I value, what I think, what I want, getting out of other people's, you know, crap, where there's issues where they're afraid or they're scared or they don't know how to show up or be vulnerable or be honest. And I would really see who really comes through for you, because there's like the Mercury, Venus, Mars conjunction that's going to be happening in your 5th house from the end of December all the way to early January. And it can actually bring a real clear conversation with somebody who knows what they do want. Hopefully that's helpful, Rachel. Let me know what happens. Okay, so I've got Iman. And Iman says, should I quit my job? It's very toxic and I have other offers lined up. Should I quit now before I secure the other spot? All right. You're welcome. All right, Iman, this is for you. Do they take a leap of faith and quit this job without having something secure, even though there's offers? Do they play it safe and wait for an offer? Do they stay? What do they do? So many people ask me that question this week with Mars square Saturn. Do I quit my job? Don't you love when the tarot gets sassy? 7 of Cups, it's saying there's too many options and too many potentials. And something that I would just say, I don't know your astrology, I'm just going to go based off the cards. The 7 of Cups literally means this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. And it can also mean that there is like this sense of getting too idealistic about something, you know, potentially being too good to be true. Okay, so you're Sag, Sun, Virgo, Moon, Scorpio rising. I would say that the two signs that need to be the most careful with just haphazardly changing their jobs right now would be Scorpio rising and Cancer rising. And I'd say that because right at the turn of the year, Saturn's going to go into your 6th house of work, and Neptune's going to be there too, which means if you get sold on a verbal agreement or a contract that's like, yeah, we're going to give you the job, and you quit your current job now, and then you move into this new position, and it doesn't happen, right? You're going to see Mars square Neptune here soon. Not a good time to make a job change. You're going to see Mars and Saturn are still squaring. Not a good time to make a job change. And there's not a lot of clarity. See, if this were me, I would say you want to wait until Mars gets into its exaltation in Capricorn, which will be in the next week. You maybe want to wait until you're getting into the end of December, beginning of January, where you're going to see planets in your 3rd house of communication conjunct Venus and also the Sun and Mercury, which you could have a more solid commitment. You wouldn't have to wait that long. I mean, you would probably be waiting maybe until early, maybe mid-January. If you could have something in writing, right? Because the 3rd house is writing. If you have that proposal, that job interview goes great, we want to give you the the job, great. Send me the job proposal, give me the salary, give me all the information. Then you can do it. But I would be very careful, not only quitting jobs without having something backed up, but I would also be very careful leaving jobs, because a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings are either going to find it harder to be employed in February through April, or they're going to find that they're going into new jobs and they're like, oh, this is not what I thought it was, or I'm not sure about the team or the hours. And you need to do your due diligence to make sure that it's something solid that you like. And I think it's a great time to do it. Knowing that Saturn and Neptune are going to your 6th house, it wants you to have a different job in at least a different environment, or a different office, or a different schedule. And it's also setting you up for a lot of career growth over the summer. You'll see Jupiter go into your career house. But I think the 7 of Cups coming up with the 4 of Swords means that if you buy into something that sounds too good to be true, or you're just going off of, yeah, we're going to hire you, but then you don't have a start date, it could actually leave you with the 4 of Cups kind of coming up upright, being like, oh man, disappointed. Like, I should have had that guarantee, or I should have had something, and now you're, kind of upset and angry. Yeah, there could be other offers. You could potentially be looking at 2 jobs that are like, we're interested in you, but I think everybody's had a situation where they're potentially, told, oh, we're going to call you back, or we're going to start, or we're going to be hiring, next week. And then it's like crickets, and then you follow up. And then, they either go with another candidate, or it ends up, not happening at all. And there are transits that you're experiencing where that could happen. So I really, really advise you to wait until you have an offer in hand. I also really advise you to be selective about, where you're going, and ask questions and stuff, because wherever you land from February through April, doesn't matter where you are, it's going to be a lot of work. And I'm talking to some Scorpio risings that are actually being let go, or there's something changing with their jobs right now. And that's going to kick off the Saturn, Neptune in the 6th, where they have to go and find a new purpose. So be very selective, make sure you have that security. Maybe wait until after Sunday to make any more kind of serious decisions. Let's let Mars get into Capricorn. That's going to give you a little bit more communication when it comes to the verbal offers and agreements. All right, we've got Brianna. What's up, Brianna? How's it going? Hi there. I have family court on December 18th, and I'd like to know what to be expecting. Thank you so much in advance. Well, let's take a look. All right, so what does she need to know about family court happening on the 18th? Okay, 1, 2, 3. We have got the 4 of Cups coming up in the past position, the 9 of Coins coming up in the right now, and the 8 of Wands. Just the images of the flow of the story of coming from the 5 of Cups, of being kind of lost and confused, or devastated, or not having personal fulfillment, or being heavily focused on what's not working, or the negatives and the blockages, and all the tears and kind of sadness that comes from that, to shifting into the 9 of Pentacles is a real game changer. I feel like the 5 of Cups does kind of talk about, having been in the same situation for so long, and kind of swimming in that emotional soup, and never really feeling like you can kind of get out of that never-ending doom loop. And shifting into the 9 of Pentacles, which is what's coming in the immediate future, is freedom, right? This is independence. This is also about the freedom to feel like you have a say, or a choice, or involvement in what's kind of going on in your life, but also in your kids. This can be a glow up too, so it can represent being seen as somebody who is responsible, independent, self-sufficient, obviously capable, financially independent, and having a lot more capability, I think, of having some kind of control or say over this situation. So it's painting you in a picture where you're no longer focused on what didn't work. You've been more focused on putting your best face, kind of forward and thinking about what personal changes that you're making within yourself and how you're really leveling up so you can show up and be seen as somebody who is definitely worthy of having the responsibility and being awarded or granted, something in your favor, especially as it comes to your relationship with your kids. I love about the Nine of Coins is it's a self-kept woman. So this is a woman, like if you think about this, like in traditional times, women would often marry for security. They were marrying for love. They wanted to, ensure that their family was going to continue to be able to survive. They wanted to make sure they had land and they had food. It was very rarely for love. It was more for security and financial reasons. So when we look at this from like a traditional standpoint, a woman in fine clothes and she's got all this abundance and she's got a bird as a messenger, so it talks about her communication and her intuition, and also enjoying time in a garden and being able to have like leisure. She doesn't need someone to take care of her. She's able to provide for herself. So I feel like you going into this situation, you're going to be like, these are all the things that I've done, and this is how I'm able to provide, and this is what I've been able to kind of achieve. So from a financial or a health or even from a career standpoint, it looks like you have made major strides to really kind of show that you're ready for this and that you have been really, making some big shifts in your life to prove that it's time for you to be reunited with your family. The Eight of Wands comes up, which does talk about swift motion and things kind of moving very quickly, and it's all kind of all at one time. So it seems like it's going to be one very quick decision. It's not going to be something that's going to unfold or they're going to say, we'll come back in X amount of time. It's going to be like, this is the new, decision. This is the new order moving forward. We may reconvene, in 8 weeks or 8 months or at some point down the line and see how things are going. But for right now, this is what's going to stand. And then things are going to start progressing. And so if I remember, I think you said you were a Libra. Are you Libra rising? I think you were, and if that's the case, that kind of makes sense with just the energy of what's going on with all the transits going through Capricorn in your 4th house and like this reunion and reuniting with family and eclipses in your 5th house where there's going to be a lot more emphasis on children. But I definitely feel like this is a really good turning point for you. And the more that you're focused on what you've been able to achieve and being present and going in the direction of being like, okay, we've got this and things are going to shift very quickly and it's going to be going more so in my favor. I mean, I think it's going to be positive. I also think that the Eight of Wands, it's just talking about like, keep going forward, not allowing yourself to regress and kind of fall back into the past. And I know that you haven't really felt like you've had a fair shake in some things that have happened in the past, but it's about not letting that kind of deter you and letting some of the changes and some of the, I think, kind of leveling up that you have done for yourself speak for itself. I think it's going to be like quite a change from what you've had experienced in previous kind of court sessions. So keep the fire, the momentum and everything burning. I am affirmations I think would be helpful. Burning candles, obviously the Eight of Wands can be talking about shifting energies and doing this stuff energetically. And just really going into the situation feeling like you're very confident and that you have your eyes on the prize, because it's almost like you're settling for, this or nothing. And the decision looks like it will be very black and white. I don't think it's going to be one, like kind of mixed or, one way or the other. It's going to be definitively, yes, we're going to now allow you to start doing this and this is what we're going to do. And there may still be some reconvening, but it does look like you're going to be granted something that's going to give you more freedom. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Definitely circle back and let me know. I'm sending you so many good vibes because I've been following that storyline with you as well. And I know that that's been like a really difficult, theme for you and your family. So let me know what happens. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with me on Friday. It's always fun getting to hang out and read cards for you guys. If you want to see more about me and my work, if you want to learn astrology or tarot, or maybe you want to book a personalized reading with me, check out my website below. Head over to beyondtheveiltarot.com. I will also be here on Sunday. We'll be here at 7 a.m. Central Time, and we'll be putting out the Sunday Astro Weather, talking all about Mars and Capricorn, what it means and why it's so good. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you all back here very soon. Take care.